Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We are just waiting for a few audiences to join in. We'll be starting in next 2 minutes. Yes, thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Am I audible? If somebody can just let me know. Am I clear?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, hello all. Very good afternoon. Myself, Ekta Dubey, and on behalf of the Brinalytics team and our partner Exotel, we welcome you all and thank you for being part of our webinar, Smart Communication for Automobile Industry, Enhancing CX with Cloud Telephony. So before we start the webinar, there are a few guidelines that I would like to highlight and make you people aware of. Requesting all the attendees to be on mute when the speakers are taking the session. There would be a Q&A after each session where the attendees can ask the questions, if any, to the respective speakers. The guidelines are you need to raise your hand, unmute yourself on your video, introduce yourself, your company, your designation, and ask your question to the concerned speaker. So before we start, I would like to introduce our partner, Exotel. Exotel is one of the Asia's largest cloud telephony companies, working with 4,500 plus businesses, including top enterprises and startups. They solve communication problems for various industries, be it automobile, e-commerce, cab aggregators, BFSI, or fintech. Exotel is a secure and reliable business phone system on the cloud, simple to set up. No additional infrastructure or equipment required. Enable sales and support teams irrespective of where they work from. Done with the introduction of our partner, moving to a short, crisp note about the webinar before we move on to our keynote speaker. Now, in the era where almost every software industry is reaping benefits from the cloud telephony, automobile sector is surely not untouched. Fueled by burgeoning lifestyles and increasing digital customer base, businesses in the automobile industries are undergoing massive change. In this webinar, we'll talk about how the businesses in the automobile industry stand to increase revenue and improve customer experience by addressing the following challenges, like lack of streamlined customer communication channel, lead leakage, insufficient follow-ups, lack of customer feedback. So this was the highlight of the webinar, which we are going to talk on, and the speakers are going to share their interesting insights on this. To start and move forward, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Raman Kishore, Accounts-Based Marketing Manager, Exotel. Raman has played an instrumental role at Exotel in researching and coming up with personalized solutions for different verticals and geographies. In the past 5 years, he has worked with numerous enterprises in various industries to solve their communication challenges to cloud telephony. And he is going to share his insights on navigating the state of customer experience in the automobile industry. Over to you, Raman, to start your presentation.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Raman.
Hi guys. Thank you so much, Ekta, for the introduction. And firstly, Happy New Year's to all of you all. Thank you so much for making it to the webinar. Like Ekta mentioned, today we're going to be talking about how the cloud telephony platform or cloud communication platform is actually not just helping in increasing revenue, but also in helping to enhance your customer experience when it comes to the automobile industry. Without any delay, we'll just get started. So just 1 second. Ekta, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. So this is basically the agenda that we have for today. So we're going to quickly go over the points that we're going to discuss for the day. So we're going to start with a quick overview on the entire automobile industry itself. Then followed by where does customer experience stand when it comes to the automobile industry. Then we'll also quickly go over how does the cloud telephony platform actually help solve some of the common customer communication challenges when it comes to the automotive industry. We'll also take a look at how Exotel is actually helping solve some of these challenges in this industry. All right, in the end, we'll also go over some of the case studies or some of the top OEMs and dealerships that Exotel actually works with to give you some kind of sense on how the existing industry actually uses cloud telephony to solve their communication challenge. We'll get started. I'm not sure if my slides are changing. Yeah, okay, it is. All right, let's get started. In fact, since you're in the business, I'm sure you already know.
Raman, sorry to interrupt, but I guess the slide is not completely visible. If people might agree to me. Now, yes, now it's visible, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
yes.
All right. Yeah, like I was saying, right? Since you're already in the business, you must know that India's auto industry is literally the 4th largest in the world, right? In fact, India was the largest producer of two-wheelers across the globe in 2019. In fact, the market within the country has been dominated by the two-wheeler segment. And there are predictions that there's going to be a lot more growth in the coming future once things actually get back to normal. You can actually see that from the graph. Also, in the last few years, the way people buy, own, and use vehicles have been slowly changing, if you think about it. And in fact, many sub-industries like vehicle rentals, used vehicle selling platforms, your automobile servicing platforms have actually had tremendous growth. One of the sectors that has actually contributed a lot to this growth is the road transportation sector, which has actually led to a rapid increase in the total number of vehicles that is actually on the road across the subcontinent, right? In fact, the sector actually includes two-wheelers, your trucks, cars, buses, three-wheelers, and many more that actually play a very crucial role in an overall economic development of the country. All in all, I think the sector looks great. It looks super strong, and it also shows great promise for growth in the future. Okay, now let's talk about what does the customer experience look like in the automobile industry. But first, why focus so much on customer experience, right? In fact, being customer-centric is great, but is so much focus actually required on customer experience? The answer is yes, right? It's a no-brainer. In fact, over the last few years, the quality of automobiles has improved so much. In fact, it's improved drastically that there is very little difference between the different models of competing brands. In such a case, how does one actually stand out to their target audience? There are many ways to do this, but customer experience is surely the most sustainable and the promising one. In such case, in such a case, how do you actually stand out to your target audience? There are many ways to do this, but I think, in fact, most industries have actually seen the importance of customer experience and are actually investing time and resources required to improve it. But the auto industry actually is not up to the standards of the other industries, at least from the data that you can see. In fact, according to the study, when compared to other industries, customer experience scores of auto industry actually kind of lags behind. In fact, here are some of the stats that actually back this statement, right? So this is a study that was actually conducted by AutoSense India. When it comes to talking about ease of reaching the brand, 25% of the people actually have had a lot of difficulties in reaching the company or the dealership itself. That is literally the first step of your sales cycle, right? And when you talk about the engagement quality, I think 81% of the people, at least the stat says that 81% of the people have to restate their needs all over again when they reach the dealership. And 48% of the customers are actually not updated on their delivery schedules if there is any change. This actually affects the quality of the communication. That this shows how the quality of the communication between the dealer or the OEM and the customer itself is affected, right? Let's talk about the service engagement. This is probably the post-sale process. 31% of the customers don't intend to go back to the dealerships after the free service period. And in fact, 46% of the customers express that companies do not reach out to them when they don't go back to the dealerships after the paid service. So this actually shows that this directly, in fact, affects your retention numbers, right? Your pre-sale sales numbers are probably affected by the first two stats that we spoke about, but retention is also something that most companies are looking for, right? This directly impacts your retention numbers as well. In fact, in this new age of customer, right, the benchmarks have actually shifted from best in the industry to best in the customer ecosystem. In fact, customers are actually, customers are subconsciously or consciously comparing the experience that they receive. I'm sorry?
Raman, you need to change your slide.
I'm on the
We are
fifth
at the slide of automobile industry in India and overview. So have we moved on to your another slide?
Yeah, I have.
Yes. So that slide is not visible actually. So
can you see the customer experience in automobile industry slide right now?
no, it is the automobile industry in India and overview, where you're talking about the graph and the fourth largest auto industry in the world. I think that's the first one. Yes. Now it is customer experience in the automobile. Yeah.
All right. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not sure why.
No problem. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, like I mentioned, these are all the stats that, in fact, I just spoke about, right? Be it talking about ease of reaching the brand, or talk about engagement quality, or talk about even post-service engagement, right? So there are stats that shows that the customer experience, when compared to other industries, are not up to the mark, at least, right? In fact, customers are actually comparing the experience that they receive across all companies and industries itself. For customers, it's an industry, like no matter which industry they are, they're going to compare the experience that they receive from different industries. So in such an environment, having a positive customer experience journey actually gives you a huge advantage. One of the surest way to improve your customer experience is surely by improving your customer communication itself. Let's now take a look at some of the challenges or customer communication challenges that most companies face. All right. I hope, once again, I'm just waiting for the slide to change. I'm not sure why it's taking so much time. Yeah, I think it's changed. Yes. Okay. So here are some of the top challenges that most companies face, or at least the auto industry faces, right, when it comes to customer communication. Let's talk about it one by one. The first one, I think, is the lack of streamlined customer communication channel. That is, in fact, auto industry in India actually operates through a dealership model, at least most OEMs do. And customer often finds it very difficult to reach the relevant dealership based on their location. Again, they also struggle to find out which one is the closest to them. In fact, this is something that I myself have faced, right? I've been bounced off from one dealership to the other when I was actually looking to purchase a car. And that is the same case is with most people. In fact, the challenge here is very obvious. It is difficult for the customer to even take the first step that directly impacts your sales. The second one is the lead leakage. That is, since there is almost no call tracking, at least most companies, there's barely any call tracking, because even if you actually open the dealership page, you'll actually see the direct dealer number or the mobile number of the dealer. So that shows that there's not any call tracking in place. In fact, business in the auto industry often end up losing leads when customers reach out to them over weekends or after hours. And if you think about it, these are the times when the customer is actually free, right? And this actually impacts the bottom line negatively. And the third one that we can talk about is, I think, insufficient follow-ups, right? Like I mentioned, according to the study, when it comes to service engagement, 81% of the people have to restate their needs all over again when they contact the dealership. And in fact, 42% of the customers state that the dealer has been quiet from test drive to purchase. In fact, this has also happened to me. In fact, I recently purchased a car, so the memories are very fresh. So this actually means that there is almost no follow-up from the dealership side, like post a certain stage, right? This could be due to different reasons. It could be due to not logging of data. It could be due to not tracking of customer data, and etc. But again, this is a huge opportunity that is missed, right? And it happens because there is literally no system to track or how customers started an inquiry and how many calls are being made to these customers. So businesses are actually not able to make as many follow-ups as they would ideally like. This is actually causing lead leakage. When talk about the fourth one, I think is lack of customer feedback. Customer feedback is actually super crucial for any business, and especially if you're looking to improve your customer experience. And all of us know that. But even in today's digital age, I think very few companies ask for feedback. In fact, even the few that do so via a never-ending list of questions, which is usually asked to fill out using pen and paper. And nobody wants to fill out such a huge form manually, right? And I mean, it definitely is tedious. There is also the fact that, I'm sorry, yeah, there's also the fact that not all of these sheets, in fact, make it to the system itself. Many end up getting lost in the process. This again is actually a missed opportunity for all these companies to know what their customers think about them. In fact, Exetel has been solving, or rather cloud communication itself has been looking to solve such basic communication problems across the industry. And in fact, we at Exetel have been doing this for some of the top OEMs and dealerships over 9 years now. Let's now take a look at how cloud telephony actually helps solve some of these challenges that we just spoke about. Okay, so I hope you're able to see this slide. One second, I'm just waiting. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think it's here. All right. I think the first challenge that we spoke about was lack of streamlined customer communication channel, right? So let's talk about how can this challenge be addressed, right? So I think the solution here is simple. That is, one, you got to make it easier for the customers to reach you, right? And two is obviously set up a channel or set up a number where they can actually reach you. In fact, automobile companies, like we spoke about, they actually operate in a dealership model, right? And they assign different numbers to different dealers. Most often than not, these are like the dealer's mobile numbers or some landline numbers that they have at their premise. In fact, while it is convenient for companies to implement such a system, it becomes hard task for the customer to find the right number to reach the dealer. Instead, imagine having just one common number. It could be a toll-free number or it can be any number for your brand, where you can actually route the calls directly to the dealer near them. And it can happen completely in an automated fashion. Imagine, say, I'm from Bangalore, I'm from Indiranagar. If I actually call into a number, imagine me directly being routed to the closest showroom to me, right? Without me having to enter any DTMF codes or etc. Right? So that would be a much easier way for me to reach the brand itself, right? So that is one way probably we could address this particular problem that we spoke about. Let's talk about the next challenge. I think the next challenge that we spoke about was lead leakage. That is, primarily that happens due to unavailability of call tracking, right? Again, this is very closely related to the solution that we spoke about in the first challenge. Yeah. So the solution here is obviously to set up call tracking, and also to separate your personal from business calls, right? Again, I'm going back to the same example. When dealers actually have their own numbers for the first point of contact for customers, it becomes difficult for you to differentiate between your business and your personal calls. In fact, call tracking becomes very vital for almost all servicing companies, right? But most companies, especially when they're actually looking to boost their sales process, end up losing their leads. Again, this happens when the calling platform is actually not designed to track calls. In fact, most platforms right now, or most OEMs and dealerships, have a pretty established DMS softwares installed, right? Be it for sales, be it for retention, and etc. But something that is missing is the call tracking aspect to it, right? So you can track leads, most of the leads that come into your platform, but how do you actually track the calls that happens, the leads that come in through calls, and which is the most used medium, at least in India, right? I would definitely prefer to pick up the phone and talk to my dealer, though I might end up researching on the net and making an inquiry and etc. Right? So I think setting up a seamless tracking system for your entire business becomes vital, which actually has a direct impact on your sales and retention as well. Let's move on to the next challenge. Yeah, I think the next challenge that we spoke about was insufficient follow-ups, which is again causing lead leakage, right? Again, all of these are, if you think about it, it's very interrelated, right? Let's take a look at the solution. Yeah, here, in fact, this problem can be easily solved by doing a bunch of things, right? One, making it easier for the agents to reach the customers. Making the life of the agents a lot more easier would be the first step. And the second step would be setting up a seamless CRM integration. That is, like I mentioned earlier, you might have a completely self-running CRM set up for all your systems, but having your calling system integrated with your CRM would definitely help you avoid this particular challenge. And the third thing would be to leverage features like your auto dialers, automated calls, and SMSs that come with the calling platform integration that you do. Right? So in fact, by integrating your customer CRM to your cloud platform like Exotel, can actually increase the productivity of your agents. And in fact, communicating with customers contextually, and also to help make timely follow-ups, right? So this helps, in fact, this makes it a lot more easier for your agents to keep track of customer conversations and calls as well. Also, most auto servicing companies use SMSs for their customer communication. But the issue is that it is manual, right? Hence, periodic SMS engagement takes a backseat because it becomes time consuming, right? So instead, you can actually imagine having a seamless automated calls integrated with your SMS platform in parallel to remind your customers of an upcoming service events, etc. Right? So that actually takes a lot of time away from your agents that they can actually invest in other productive activities. In fact, imagine even having 20% of the customers who are answering your automated calls. It can be as personalized as possible. That is still reducing the workload of your agents by 20%, right? Hence, having a seamless integration with your CRM along with your calling platform, like Exotel, can actually have direct impact not just on your sales numbers, but also on your retention numbers. And in fact, cloud telephony platform in general also comes with additional features like your auto dialers that again boost the productivity of your agents. Again, auto dialers take manual dialing out of the equation totally, right? Hence, it ends up speeding up the process. Your agents can actually make a lot more calls in much lesser time. And this definitely ends up get a lot more job done. Let's talk about the next challenge. I think what we spoke about was lack of customer feedback. Yeah, I hope you can see my slide. Yeah, I mean, again, this can actually be tackled by making it again easier for customer to give feedbacks itself, right? We spoke about how we have to fill, customers have to fill long forms using pen and paper. Again, the best way would be to making it a lot more easier for the customer to give feedback, and two, by automatic feedback through, again, it can be through interactive personalized calls, or it can also be through interactive SMSs, right? So instead of using your long forms that they have to fill it manually, you can now make it a lot more easier to your customers, where they can actually give feedback over a call, which is much more simpler, right? And the response rate also is generally a lot more higher than over an SMS or a pen and paper. This can actually easily be done by integrating with these kind of softwares like cloud communication platform or Exetel, for example, can be integrated to seamlessly give these calls to your customer as and when their service is done, right? So imagine having imagine you receive a call after your service is done. Hi Raman, you just gave your car for service a couple of days back, and you gave for so and so service, so and so services were done, so and so applications were changed, and etc. How do you like the feedback? And you can actually, this can also be made interactive, right? So that way you get a lot of data from literally every customer that you work with. So this can actually help you improve not just your customer experience, but also you can now make changes in your current processes to help increase your retention numbers as well, right? So all these problems are actually directly related to the stats that we actually spoke about, and the challenges and the solutions actually work as an addresser for all the stats that we actually spoke about in the beginning. Yeah. In fact, in addition to all the problems that the cloud telephony actually solves for you, it also has a lot of other benefits. Let's, in fact, take a look at them one by one, right? One, it obviously improves your brand recall value, right? Everywhere that the calls happen, your brand is going to be published to your customers. And two, it definitely reduces your operational cost, right? The moment you hear the term cloud telephony, it takes up all your OpEx and your basically it takes up all your operational cost and your capex involved in setting up a calling system at your premise, right? So it completely takes away your operational cost. And three, it helps, obviously it helps you improve, it helps you improve your overall customer experience. That is what we just spoke about. And also it gives you complete insight. That is, it increases your visibility and insight. I think one of the problems that the industry faces is having complete 360-degree view on every customer. Imagine an OEM who owns thousands of dealerships for having to go through individually through each dealer to get the data of every customer, right? It becomes a lot more harder. Imagine now if I have all these data, all these integrations done, I can just pull up a customer name. I can see how many calls were done to this particular customer before the sale was done, after the sale was done, during the usage, how many calls are being done. And I can also talk about post-sale services, how many calls are being done and how the customer has been treated, right? So you can actually set up a SOP at every stage, and you can monitor the customer very closely. And this will run seamlessly by itself, right? So that way you can have a much more seamless process way, and you'll have a much better visibility into your entire operations. And it in fact helps you gain an edge over your competition, of course, and also it has direct impact on your sales and your retention rates as well. So it improves your conversion rates. So yeah, these are probably the other benefits that the cloud telephony platform brings in. Here are some of the success stories, right? Again, these are very similar to the challenges that I actually mentioned. Again, these are used car platforms. We work with used car platforms. We work with dealerships. We work with your OEMs. Again, what we do for them is we specifically work with them. Like for example, with Cars24, we help them reduce their entire manual efforts by automating all their service reminder calls, right? And again, with a similar platform, we help them increase their visibility by giving them complete insights into what is happening in the sales side of the conversation. And similarly with dealerships like Kia and etc., we work with them on a dealership level, where we work with all the dealerships, where we spoke about having one number for all the dealerships, right? Here we work with them with unique virtual numbers with each of the dealerships, so that they can have track of every dealership, how many calls are being coming, how many inquiries are coming, what is the response time, turnaround time, and etc., right? So that way they can have 100% compliance monitoring for all the dealerships. So these are some of the success stories that we've had in the past. So yeah, so having a seamless calling platform integration with your existing CRM can actually just not just help you increase your sales conversion rate or retention rate, but also improves your overall customer experience. So yes, guys, I think that is all I had for the day. If you have any questions, I think you can go ahead and ask them.
Yes. Thank you so much, Raman, for sharing your insights. We are open for the Q&A, everyone. So I have already set few guidelines. You need to unmute yourself, raise your hands, unmute yourself on your video, introduce yourself, and put your questions to Raman. So if any questions, we are open for Q&A. We'll wait for a minute, Raman, to audiences to understand.
Sure.
Any questions? Yes, so we have Amisha Kaushal. Amisha, you can unmute yourself on your video and introduce yourself and put your question. Over to you, Amisha.
Hi everyone, my name is Amisha. And ma'am, I want you to ask that what is this customer response percentage for the manual calls in percentage to IVR calls? Is it more? Is it less? Because personally, if I am a customer and if I am getting any IVR call, there is a good tendency that I might disconnect the call in comparison to if a person is calling me. So can you tell me the ratio, customer response ratio?
Definitely, Amisha. Yeah. Thank you so much for the question, firstly. Like you mentioned, right? Yes, that's definitely the tendency for most customers. But again, the idea here is context, right? So giving the customer a context on what the call is, or having the call to be highly personalized. Obviously, if I'm going to receive a call saying that, hi, this is a call from Honda, your service is due in 2 days, my frequent response is going to be to disconnect the call, right? But imagine having that being done on a much more contextual level. That is, when I'm talking about context, I'm talking about time, when you're going to trigger these calls, again, when are you going to automate these calls, and what is the message that you're going to play to these customers, right? And it can be, if you're talking about feedbacks, we can talk about right after the service or a few days after the service. And if you're talking about service reminders itself, again, it talks about what time of the day and etc., right? And also the message that you play to these customers is what matters. That is having it highly personalized. Imagine having to hear a call saying that, hi Raman, you did so and so purchases recently, and having data, that is tracking data and leveraging that data over the call is what matters. So that is what we try doing for all our customers. By doing this, we've been able to actually help them increase their pickup rates over manual, right? So in fact, we've been able to, just through automated calls, we've been able to increase their pickup rates almost by 15% than their manual call rates, right? 15 to 20% is what we've been able to increase their pickup rates by. So that is literally that much percentage of work done for them through an automated process, right? So that is basically what I think will help. Would that answer your question, Misha?
Amisha.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Amisha. We have one more question, Raman, from Rajkumar. Rajkumar, please introduce yourself, unmute yourself, and put your question.
My name is Rajkumar, and I'm from Jubilant Motorworks.
Hi,
and I had the service marketing portfolio for the group. Just wanted to know one thing from you. When we talk about the cloud telephony and the other aspects, just wanted to know, like, if you have done anything while our CRM team calls to the customer, they have the ready display in front of their screen to know what kind of various products which can be pitched to these customers. Have you done any of this kind of assignment or task for any of the
yes,
dealerships
yeah.
and you can brief how it had worked for them and how it was helpful in increasing their revenues?
Definitely, Rajkumar. I think that's a very valid question. I think that directly aligns with what I was talking about during the presentation as well, right? So, in fact, how we do this is basically to give you. Let me talk about how we do this and what did this help in, right? So, how we do this is basically when we are talking about agents giving calls to your customers, right? So it is not just that process. It is a lot of other integration that actually goes in, where all the data which is on the platform is being leveraged. So when the agent actually tries giving a call to the customer, the call goes through Exital. When the call gets triggered, we basically fetch the data of that particular customer. So the unique identifier being the phone number of that customer, using which we actually fetch the data from your system. Again, it happens through a ping system where we ping you saying that this is the phone number. You can ping us back the details that you want us to throw it to the agent, right? And which we pass it on to your system, which can be basically using your CRM. You can populate in front of your screen through a pop-up, right? So through a pop-up, you can actually populate all the information that you want, right? Again, the customizability and what you want to display is up to you. But we act as a medium that can actually just pick up the data from your side and throw it to the agent that is relevant for him to speak with the customer. So that is the first thing. That is how we do it, right? I mean, we can go into detail. We could probably take it offline and do this in detail. But on an overall, on a very general level, this is how we do it, right? And what does this help? Of course. So in fact, we have done this for some of the dealerships, and we have also done a couple of OEMs as well, when it specifically comes to service reminder calls, right? And this has actually helped them improve, like I don't have exact number per se from a contextual calling, because we have combined both automated and contextual calling together, which has actually helped improve. In fact, like I told Amisha, which was a direct example of a customer where we were actually able to improve their retention rate itself by at least 8 to 10%, right? So that is basically what we were able to do for the retention side. So this is possibly how we were able to actually help them on their retention, at the same time help them making their processes much more simpler. Would that answer your question? Hello?
Yeah. So I got the thing which you want to say. Just I wanted to ask, like, what particularly the products which can be pitched to the customer as per his previous records and data, like how many the car is driven, how many kilometers. So it might require that kind of components, or maybe that kind of service. So it will be a kind of a tailor-made approach to that particular customer. That was I wanted to ask.
Exactly. So all this data is already available on your CRM, right? So like I told you, we can pick the data that you actually want us to showcase to the agent, and we can showcase only those data. That is possible.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Raman. We have actually 3 questions lined up from Sanjeet, Sarabjit, and Chirag. So will it be okay we take one question and then we can take after the panel? How would you suggest?
Sure, we can see what the questions are.
Is it okay with Sarabjit and Chirag if we take the question after Q&A? And we can take Sanjeet's question?
No issues. Please carry on.
Thank you so much. Sanjeet, can you please put your question?
Hello.
Sanjeet Kumar Tripathi, can you please put your question? Okay, no worries. I think, okay, he's asking. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Sanjeet, please go ahead.
All right, thank you. So, in fact, I'm so glad to hear that you have been doing a lot.
Sanjeet, actually, we are losing you.
So, good to know that you have been doing lots of work in the pre-sales and after sales. So,
I'm really sorry.
I work for not on the sales and pre-sales, but on the R&D.
I think we lost him. He'll rejoin. Sorry. So Sarabjit, please put your question and then we move on to the further session, and we can take the question of Sanjeev when he joins in back. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and nice to be a part of this Zoom meeting today. So I'm Sarabjit Singh from Hyundai Motor India Limited in service marketing profile. Actually, this question is a bit of part of this particular context only regarding the customer communication. So my question is basically like we do a lot of campaigns from each company, campaigns in the sense monthly camps to reach out to the customer to give some discounts in terms of service, you can say camps. So which mode of communication, in your opinion, comes out to be most effective to reach out to the customer? Like we have lot of modes, like through telephone, SMS, SNS. These days digital platforms are really catching up. But when it comes to conversion, so what we find is that digital communications are not able to bring in the required conversions, and it is difficult also to, you can say, look at the effectiveness of conversion in terms of calculation in itself, like how many conversion took place through digital. So I just want to hear your opinion on this, that which mode in your opinion would be the most effective today or maybe in tomorrow?
Definitely. In fact, this is something that we've been doing actively, right? In fact, it is very related to what the previous two questions also that we were talking about. It is true. Like there are so many modes of communication to talk to your customer. How do you know what to use, right? At least from the data that we have, at least having worked with so many customers and across so many industries also, right? So we have a lot of data. In fact, we power almost over 15 million calls a day. So we have a lot of data from which we can actually work from. So in fact, I think the best way where the customer has benefited the most is where we've combined both calling and SMS, right? So if you think about it, most companies actually just send you an SMS. These days, I think slowly companies are catching up again, but again, it's a generic message that is being played out. So when I talk about calling, I'm not talking about your regular IVR calling. I'm talking about a more personalized IVR calling with the control of retries and retry limits, right? So that is how many times you can call a customer and at what intervals of time you can call a customer. If all this can be automated like directly from your system, I think that would be the best way to automate all these processes and follow that up with, depending on whether there's a response from the customer or if there's no response, follow that up with something called interactive SMS as well, right? So again, these are not like your regular SMSs, but these are SMSs that kind of take to your personally branded web app, right? Or like a web link. So these are something that we can possibly do. I could possibly show you what these are and etc. offline. We can definitely talk about this offline. But something that has worked for us is having a very personalized and very curated to that particular scenario, that particular use case, right? It can be if it is for getting feedback, a completely different scenario. If it is for reminding the service customer about their service, it's going to be a completely different context. Depending on the context, we'll have a completely different messaging for literally every customers, and which will be picked up from your CRM itself, and follow that up with your interactive SMSs or regular SMSs also, right? And again, also having control on the number of retries and number of retry limits is what actually helps you improve that pickup rate. Is what we have seen at least.
So in your opinion, telecalling will continue to play a role in coming years? Like we keep on saying that digital is the future, digital is what we are going to see in all the, you can say, communication modes. But why it is, when it comes to penetration in terms of conversion of any campaign or service reminder or anything, why digital is not able to, I mean, show its strength? That is what my question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is a slow shift in trend. That is, people are slowly moving to a digital platform where people are actually coming to you, right? But under these instances, until that happens completely, I think there should be a mix of both. That is where I think we are right now. At least until there is a complete shift towards digital, I think where there should be a active mix of both, where we can also run these telecalling. Again, the idea is not to make it as manual as possible. The idea is to use the data, leverage the data, and automate as much as possible so that the manual process is taken out of the picture, right? So that is where I think where we are right now. At least that's where most companies do right now. So where the idea is to have basically have a win-win from both the scenarios. So we're not entirely there yet. At the same time, we can't throw the telecommunication out of the picture as well. So that is basically where we are.
All right, Raman. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Sarabjit, and thank you, Raman. We have a lot of questions for you, Raman, today, actually, but I would request Sajid and Sanjeet Kumar to stay back after the panel. We'll definitely have questions coming in from Raman. He'll answer all your questions. Also, we have a question from Thana Sarkar, who has asked your views on some things. So, Mr. Sajid and Mr. Sanjeet, I would request you to please stay back. And after panel, we are going to open the floor for Q&A. I hope that sounds okay with everyone. Yes. So without further delay, moving to our panel discussion, that is effective streamlining of smart communication in automobile industry to serve the next billion, where our speakers will share some interesting insights on new touch points, digitization of automotive customer journey, increased customer loyalty with smart communication techniques, and many more. To start with, first, I would like to introduce our panel speakers. First, Mr. Girish Nilamana, Chief Operating Officer, Jubilant Motor Works Private Limited, an automotive professional with over 20 years of experience in both national and international automotive landscape. Having worked in Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Europe, journey that started with OEM, Hyundai Motor India Limited, and now heading MD operations at Jubilant Motor Works Private Limited. I would request somebody to please be on mute. I think there's a lot of disturbance happening. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Mr. Raghunath C. Nair, Head South Asia Business Unit, Nissan Motor Corporation, an IIA alum with over 2 decades of experience handling most of the facets in automotive field. Currently heading the Southeast Asia Business Unit at Nissan, prior to which he was handling the implementation of connected cars in Africa, Middle East, and India. Mr. Bijoy Chatterjee, Head Skoda Auto DG Lab India with Skoda India, responsible for stimulating an environment for innovation and entrepreneurship, with strongly supporting the commercial activities of the organizations by promoting and developing digital innovative initiatives that the organization may wish to pursue. He is having 20+ years of experience. Our next speaker, Mr. Devi Charan M, Customer Experience Lead After Sales, International Market Group, Ford Motor Company. Devi Charan has over 15 years of experience and has worked for some of the leading automotive brands in the after-sales, internal consulting, and IT business interface. And Mr. Rajiv Chauhan, Director, Network Development, Volvo Cars Group, 25 years of automotive experience covering almost all verticals, spent some good time with Honda Cars and now employed with Volvo Cars as Director Network, specialist on retail networking strategy and customer experience. Now inviting our panel moderator, Mr. Raman Kishore from Exotel, to start with the discussion. Over to you, Raman.
Thank you so much, Ekta, for the introduction. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be talking amongst all the panelists. And so without delay, we'll get started. So like Ekta mentioned, we're going to be talking about how automobile industry can actually enhance the customer experience using smart communication tech. Right. So we have some of the top industry leaders from various companies here. We'll just start with a quick round of introductions, if you guys don't mind. We can probably start with Mr. Girish.
Hi all, and it's a pleasure to be here today. And I hope I'm audible to everybody. And I think it's a great opportunity to discuss on an issue which has been probably the one of the biggest issues which the automotive industry, and I'm sure most of the other industries would be facing, especially the COVID factor, keeping that COVID factor. I'm Girish. I had the MG operations for Jubilant and been all over the place. It's been 24 years doing just selling cars and being automobile. So I'm glad to be here and glad to contribute. So the others, I think I'm okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Bijoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Benalytics, and thanks, Raman from Exotel, to initiate this. And I'm looking forward to the panel discussion. I had the Skoda Auto DigiLab inside Pune, and I have been with the VW Group for around 8-9 years now, and I have a IT expertise of around 20-21 years. So I'm looking forward to this discussion, and I will like to put in my views in terms of innovation perspective. What is it going to be looking like in the next 4 to 5 years? Right now, what we are speaking, I totally understand, is from a context of what can be done as of now. But I also would like to put in my views, what can be done in the future. So yeah, looking forward to the discussion. And thanks.
Definitely. Looking forward to. Mr. Devi, please.
Hi everyone, would like to wish all of you a very happy new year 2021. Let's hope it's better than 2020. So as Ekta introduced, I've been around for 15 plus years in the auto industry. Glad to be in this panel amongst many of my seniors. And let's see where the discussion goes and where we can leverage all the technology we're talking about in the future. There's a lot of scope.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Devi. Mr. Raghunath, if you don't mind.
Good afternoon to everyone. Happy to be in the panel, especially discussing an interesting topic on customer experience and the future of technology in the automotive field. Looking forward to the panel discussion and wishing every participant and the panel a very happy New Year and blessed 2021.
Yes. Thank you so much. Let's have Mr. Rajiv from Volvo Cars. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Branalytics, thank you. And Raman, I think you've already set the context through your, four areas where you've been concentrating and providing solutions. So, customer experience is, the perennial debate on how to deliver the best customer experience continues, and with so many so quick fast development happening on technology front, so this is one area where I'm sure everybody is keeping an eye on. So few solutions are already available, which Raman, you said many companies are already practicing, but how they are making best use of it. So that's what I'm looking forward from my co-participants in this discussion. And then there are few questions also which are already being put up by some people on this meeting. So interesting questions. So I look forward to more queries. Yeah,
Definitely.
thanks.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Rajiv. All right, we'll get started without any delay. I think we'll get started with. We have people from pre-sales, we have people from post-sales, so we have literally everyone. I think it's a great bunch to share the knowledge from. So we'll get started with how the online sales have been affected since last year, right? We can talk about how sales, in fact, sales in general has increased quite a bit for a few brands. In fact, interestingly, even with COVID, I think sales has increased for a few brands in December. In fact, I think recently I read an article where it said for a couple of largest brands in India reported actually 15 to 20% increase in sales in December 2020 when actually compared to December 2019. But let's talk about what has changed since the pandemic. In fact, like Girish mentioned during our sync up earlier, tele-ins are the new walk-ins, is what he mentioned. We'll just quickly have a round of discussion on the same from all of you. We can start off with Mr. Girish.
Yeah, thanks, Raman. I think a lot have changed. What we feel right in frontline, a lot have changed with the pandemic coming in. What we see is the footfalls into the showrooms have really dropped, especially in the initial stages. And this was of a great concern. And there was only a year when you had a month where there was zero retails. The entire automotive just came to a total standstill, right? So the dependency on various other sources for getting the raw material for selling. So the so-called the leads and the so-called opportunities, which I put it as the raw material for processing and getting the final retail out. So we had to start. So because we were very the entire automotive industry was very stuck towards the showroom walk-ins and the number of people who come into the showroom and things like that. But that really changed a lot. Of course, even before the pandemic, we used to depend on other sources, namely the digital and the tele-ins and things like that. But unfortunately or fortunately, the pandemic has forced the entire system, the entire automobile network, I would say the ecosystem, to really rethink on the other sources and not just think on the walk-ins alone. So that is where the whole thing changed. So we started looking at how do I squeeze out more out of a tele-in, which we never thought of. How do we squeeze more out of digital, which we never thought of. We always thought the walk-ins let us have exclusive walk-in team and the best of the people on the walk-in, best of people in the showroom. So, but that after the pandemic, that just lost its charm. So it was more about any lead which comes in needs to be really squeezed out, and so that is where I think the digital and the tele-in played a huge role. And to be very honest, I think what really happens is the digital part is also to a great extent, because there are you get inorganic leads, because organic leads are not the right thing. It's more of inorganic because you pay to an agency or you pay somebody to get. So the leads are all over the place. So the only place where you really feel there can be a little bit of additional effort put in to get the result was the tele-ins. So that's why we coined the name as tele-in is the new walk-in. So the entire team is tuned in such a way that every tele-in which comes in needs to be really attacked in a very as good as a walk-in. So we have a lot of concepts. We have vendor video. So what really happens is that when a tele-in comes, you really don't know who you're talking to, because it's just the voice. It's just the voice you're talking to, and you are not seeing that person. So basically what we do is there's a video which is made and shot out to the customer. There are a lot of things which happened on the day which we never even thought of before the pandemic, So this is some major when I tell you this, your conversion ratios on tele-ins, which were, I would say 8%, 9%, has even shot up to as high as 18% and 19% today. So this is the kind of change with the whole pandemic has seen. So I think there's a good opportunity to further take this over with the cloud telephony, integrating that with the the DMS that we were talking about, the DMS, integrating with that with the, because there's a seamless engagement process with the customer.
Stop that.
Yeah.
Stay there.
Yes, Girish. I think I totally agree. In fact, now that people are moving more and more towards tele-ins and more digital, I think, in fact, further down, even when things return back to normal, I think people can have have best of both the worlds, both walk-ins and tele-ins. That'll only have an increased growth in the industry, I'm sure. Let's have Mr. Raghunath go for it.
It's the changes that we have seen in the last few months is something where we have a lot more opportunities.
It's circuit.
Sorry. Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. So the changes that we have seen, especially in the last few months, where the number of walk-ins has reduced, and we are looking into a lot of other opportunities and tap the other opportunities like having virtual showrooms or and engaging the customers things. But to me, it is all a passing phase. But where we are looking into improving, tapping the various sources of things, but it will never replace that personal touch that that you need to have, like a customer in a market like India, which is majority will still look into as an investment, and which later gets into a personal space of your own, like the vehicles are your personal space. So when you have that kind of an investment, the touch and feel is something which is very important.
It's raining. I'll leave you there. Leave you here.
Yeah,
is very important. Is very important, and hence the technology or tapping and the technology and the other aspects, and improving that complete ecosystem is something which we need to look into in the coming days, especially like with the connected cars and the various the new features that which will come in need to be looked into, and most of the OEMs are already into that. Otherwise, you get into something like what Kodak has gone through earlier. So that's a challenge which most of the automotive companies currently look into. See, a few days back, Tesla became the #1 automotive company, or the #1, the best or the richest man. So that's the kind of where you need to look into from an overall automotive perspective. But yeah, a lot of challenges, and but we're sure it will come out of this.
Definitely. I mean that makes sense. I think the way forward is, yeah, be it on personalization or even way forward. I think even connected cars. I think leveraging data will become a lot more important. I think that's probably will be the way in the forward. Okay, let's have Mr. Devi go next.
Thanks, Raman. Yeah, over and above what Mr. Grish and Mr. Raghunath pointed out, right? The digital and the personal, right? That where they kind of intersect is going to be the key point or the make or break point. The significant statistic is 10 years ago, the number of dealership visits before you buy a car was at about 6.5, 7. I think 3 years back, it had come down to 2.3 or something like that. And after COVID, only God knows what it's going to be. It's definitely going to come down because most of the information is available on digital platforms. And most of us, OEMs and dealers, have navigated towards digital platforms to take the product to the customer without taking the product to the customer, right? But this intersection where the customer moves on from digital to physical, where they touch and feel the product, because no one is going to buy a car without test driving it, right? That's where the loss happens. And making that seamless, right? The customer has seen 6 products, 6 variants, and he's chosen one of it as his favorites. Is that with the dealer when they walk into the showroom or when the test drive is being given? Now that's the key point. Now if we again start the sales cycle from scratch as to what are your needs, we've lost the customer. And the dealer and the OEM, which is going to do this transition best, is going to make that change, is going to make the difference. And customer experience goes up, retention goes up, and we win.
Yeah, definitely. I think transfer of data from one stage to the other, I think, is very important, and that actually affects customer experience, like you mentioned. And at the same time, having the supply side of things ready also becomes very important. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, Rajiv, Vijay, one of you can go ahead. You can just mute yourself and go ahead, guys. Yeah. Unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can take it.
Go ahead, Vijay. Go ahead, Vijay. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rajiv. Yeah. So going to the context of the question which was put, product sales has been, what kind of journey of sales from an Indian context we have been seeing. So firstly, I would like to say that we all would kind of agree that from an OEM perspective, we look at car as a product, but of course, it has a very complicated service orientation attached to it, which makes it more, let's say, interesting when we try to do the sales after sales and marketing of it. I would say overall product, not specifically automobiles, but product has been going through a huge disruption over the past few years, decades, etc. Starting with electronics, FMCG goods, banking services, and now of course automobile. Shared mobility, again coming from a post-COVID scenario, I would say shared mobility or public transportation is currently on a huge low because of the obvious reasons, but it will of course bounce back soon, and that is of course one of the reasons where we saw this upsurge of sales, not only on the new but also on pre-owned cars as well. Literally pushed to come with new innovative and disruptive ideas for pushing sales, and this has now kind of led to eventually stopping the legacy processes which a lot of OEMs used to follow earlier, and a lot of disruption will again happen. One of the panelists pointed out that still we will need things like test drive. Yes, we really need to push how do we digitally enable test drive journey, how the customer gets a immersive digital experience, and key focus is going to be on the after sales as well. So these were the few points I wanted to highlight. Yeah, over to you, Rajiv.
Yeah, I think I'll make it short. Most of the points which are there is said, but there was a good question which came up from one of the participants of the meeting, Sarabjit. I just mentioned the name. So he was very particular about knowing the fate and conversion ratio of digital leads. So here is, if he's around, then here is something from me which I have come to understand. See, digital leads, the return on investment on, let's say, digital leads through the online platform, or you compare it with the ROI on, let's say, the usual effort. You advertise, you do TV, and then you do telephone reaching out, and then process that lead. So if you come to realize, or if you really calculate, that they are almost same. You'll have digital leads. There is virtually no expense. I mean, there is no too much money involved there. So therefore you get these things in abundance, for sure. The trick is, or the way to really attack digital leads is, that's what I mean, my experience is that, what happens is that if there are 100 leads, digital leads or website leads in front of you, the caller starts, does 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time she reaches or to 25 or 30th, nothing is happening. So they give up. But that's not how it works. We know that digital leads conversion ratio is quite less compared to regular leads. So you have to go till the end. So that's a small insight I would like to share with you. And other things which my co-panelists are sharing, of course, web traffic has increased. The ratio of web traffic has increased. So we have to be very, very, very careful. We have to have the best man, available at those touch points. So these touch points are becoming critical. They also need to be rightly integrated with the right new technology solutions, which Raman, I think you spoke of. So this is a bare minimum, actually, I would say, this telephone cloud telephony rather. So completely agree. We have to make this shift as quickly as possible. Web leads are definitely up. Digital leads are definitely up. They have to be handled very carefully. Yeah, that's for me. Yeah.
Totally agree with you, Raju. I think, like you mentioned, I think web leads have definitely gone up. Digital leads have definitely gone up. I think the best way to leverage them, of course, it's a tedious task to talk to 1 to 100, like you mentioned. I think one would probably be some kind of automation. At the same time, when I'm talking about automation, it means what I'm talking about is reaching the customer at the right point in time, right? Like, for example, if I come and look for a particular car on your platform right now, I think to push all the that particular car related details and being personalized to that particular customer is where we could probably move towards. And also probably me receiving a call 5 minutes later, right after I drop in a call, the response time, the takt time is, I think, will play a crucial role at this particular stage in probably boosting the entire sales process itself, right? Yeah, so I think now that we've been speaking so much about between how the shift has moved from walk-ins to tele-ins, and also from digital, how we've been pushing it. So we can also talk about how having moved to this new way of or leveraging existing way of existing communication channel, how has this actually transpired into your leads, right? How has there been a lot of lead leakage? How is the lead tracking, or how does it transpire to like actual customers? We can talk about conversions and etc., right? So we can just quickly have a round of discussion on the same. One of you can just unmute and start.
I just want to, of course, the biggest challenge which was faced in this is the leakages of leads. It's a big challenge because we were not ready, or we were not. I would say Jubilant as a group, we are very, very well managed in all this, but majority of the dealer network today, I think they were not ready to take this as a source, take digital and even if you look at the tele-ins as a source, and to ensure that there is no leakages in this, So if I say I get my digital campaign done through an agency and I get leads to close to 4,000, 5,000 inquiries. Now, how easy is it for the entire team to get back to all these 4,000, 5,000 inquiries, right? Because again, the dependency on a dealership to get these leads, because they're not digitally, but they don't have an in-house digital team. None of the dealer would have an in-house digital team to run a campaign and get the leads. Due to whatever reasons, because they're not a digital company or whatever. So they have to depend, and mostly the OEMs are the guys who would say, look, there is a digital agency which we run nationally, you can go with them. That is the agency which will do the digital thing for you. So at the background, what is happening, the dealership doesn't know. The dealership has no idea what is happening in terms of how these digital leads are sourced. I'm just being very specific on the digital. So there can be geotagging, there can be ads, there can be carousels in Facebook, Instagram posts, you can have Google SERP ads which come up. So all these are done not by the dealer. It is done by an agency on the request of an OEM or on the request of a dealer, right? So now the point over here which I would like to make is these are all very, very inorganic leads. These are not real organic leads. So you really, again, as we were discussing the other day, there's a very different sentiment when you go to Kerala and do a digital activation, and there's a very different sentiment when you go to Maharashtra or when you go to Delhi, right? It's a very different, but at an OEM level, it's a bang on, the whole nation or, something like that. And even if a local dealer does, he doesn't know the nuances of going in depth and going, say, for Kerala, I need to go geotag to all these. So the leads which come in today, we are not fully equipped. The dealer is not fully equipped first to how to get these leads, how to get more of organic leads rather than inorganic leads, right? So if I say I tag, I know dealers who doesn't do an this thing, they don't do this, they just spread out the entire thing, they get 5,000 leads, and there's a daily team which keeps calling all these 5,000 leads, and they say the conversion ratio is nothing, right? You have 5,000 leads, but you have a hell of a lot of riffraff which comes into it, and you make calls to them, and so the entire activity of sourcing these leads need to be really understood fast. I think that is very important. That is where I think tele-in becomes more important. Now, tele-in has got various factors. You put up a tactical ad in a newspaper saying that there's an exchange offer of $1 lakh. Call this number. That's a tele-in. You go into a digital. You put a carousel ad in Facebook saying that I have a 0% interest scheme for you, my friend. Please do call me. There's a click to action button, and that's a tele-in, right? So you have a tele-in on a print ad. You have a tele-in from a digital source. You have a tele-in from a hoarding or a billboard outside. So all this culminates into a tele-in. Now, why would somebody call you, right? Somebody would call you seeing something because the interest levels have come up, right? So it's a very different ballgame when you look at a digital. Digital is a hell of a lot of inquiries which is coming from a digital. If there is a tele-in which is rooted into this thing, I think that tele-in is a strong tele-in for us which needs to be attacked. So that becomes probably an organic thing for me, because that guy has picked up his phone and dialed a number which is given to you and is interested to talk to a person. Now, that point is the point where I think what Devi was saying of, the break or make thing, that is where the dealer or the manufacturer or this thing gets connected to the customer who's really interested in buying a car. That is where we break or make the entire thing. So how do we handle that? Do I pick it up on the third call? Third ring? Do I pick it up on the second ring? Do I talk to him about the entire car? Do I talk to him about finance, or do I talk? He must have done a test drive, you've done everything, but he just needs to know your 100% finance scheme. So instead of talking to him about a 100% finance scheme, you go ahead. My car has got 18-inch alloy wheels. My car has got a 15-inch monitor. My car. That is not what he wants. So that communication is where I think we start losing out. So how do we streamline that?
This is automobile analytics.
How do we bring that process, a very strong process to get more conversion? This is my thought process, and a lot of work can be done on that. Today, even cloud telephony for that matter. So what you have a chatbot which responds to your call, and on your WhatsApp you have a chatbot which says your call had come. Thank you for so much. There are a couple of brochures which are loaded, maybe a video after this thing. So I think there's a lot of work that can be done over here, and I think that is where the future is going to be.
Definitely. I mean, that was a lot of information. Thank you so much, Girish. I think, like you mentioned, at least from what I can grasp from it, I think there's a lot of inorganic leads that's coming up, since now there's a lot of push from the digital, and at the same time identifying those organic leads, and once you identify them, I think giving them the right content becomes a lot more important. I think one, I think validation of all your leads, and two, setting context, that is giving context to the agent who's talking to the customer to give it as personalized as possible. Like you mentioned, if he's coming for a Honda, like if he's coming for say, let's talk about Honda. If he's coming for Honda City, why would you give him more information about other cars, right? So I think setting context to the agent, and also validation of all your leads, I think becomes a lot more important. We can have a round of discussion from others as well. Like one of you can just.
Ram, what I think Girish said is there are a lot of first-hand experience from a dealership perspective, because that's the first touch point for a customer to a brand, right? From a brand to a customer, and that's important. But lead leakages has been a challenge till now, and it is going to be a challenge in the coming months, because you have a number of new ways of getting leads. Like it could be. And it could be your digital, it could be your web link, or even from a connected cars, or your referrals, and a lot of things. So integration of that entire ecosystem is something which is a challenge, because new technologies comes in, and we need to adopt. Like now we have virtual showrooms where the entire vehicle has been explained, right? Including like with the chatbots, the complete offer has been explained to the customer. So the customer comes with a lot of information, and then especially like the urban and the rural divide is actually getting less, and with the 5G coming in and the speed of internet, the things are going to be much more. The information is much more available across the community. So and to all these things, the first and the last touch point is that one person who actually talks to the customer when they comes and visit to the showroom, and that's where we need to have a lot more importance in getting them trained, getting them motivated, and ensuring that your brand is properly represented with the proper information to the customer who comes in. And that becomes like a difference between one brand to another brand in the coming days. And that importance is something which we need to really look into, rather than, of course, the integration and things like that. And yeah, that's the first and the last point, as in the friendliness of the dealership is very
Small, Raghu, I mean, you reminded me of one small incident. Sorry, the time is running up, but I would still say, this came up. Yeah, it happened somewhere. So how it happens. I'm speaking on the integration part. So Raman, we talked of the early part of customer journey, but then you acquire a customer, and then you start engaging with the customer, essentially sending birthday wishes and sending car anniversaries, right? So all those practices are there, and of course a complete understanding of the customer situation and the customer events is good, and are possible through a system only. So this happened. It'll take me a minute only to explain. So these automated systems, when you send there was a situation where a car anniversary greetings were sent to a customer. Now, in absence of a complete understanding or the live understanding of that customer situation, the car was actually in the workshop, and the customer had met with a major accident and not hospitalized, but he was not good. He was not in good spirits. And then this communication goes of car anniversary, greetings of the car anniversary. So the only point I'm trying to make is that, if you have this, all these systems, which Raghu clearly said, that, a 360-degree view of the situation of customer and the product or the equipment which the customer is using, this is critical. And fair enough, sometimes it happens that you land into a situation where you've made a mistake, and then but then comes even more critical. You can deploy technology, perhaps you have the best of the technology, but then ultimately the people who handle and how do they make use of that technology, they are also to be trained appropriately. And at these touch points, the person who is really handling the telephone, after all, he or she is a human. So that human understanding, or that cognitive ability to really understand thoughts and react appropriately. So I firmly believe that's also critical. So you need to have a complete understanding of the customer through a system, but then you need the right people as well to really handle, deliver, whether it is leakage, whether it is maintaining relationships. So that's the small point I wanted to make.
No, definitely. I think that makes sense. In fact, earlier when we spoke also, we spoke about people, processes, and tools in that order, right? So I think that falls in place here. Like, I think unless, please go on, Mr. Devi.
Yeah, just one point, right? I fully agree that the frontliners are the most important. At the end of it, it's a people business. But just alluding to what Girish was mentioning, right? The lead leakage is a function of the quality of leads, right? So just as Girish mentioned, the OEMs engage with the digital agency, dealerships hardly do. And if, just to be candid, if the digital agency does a bad job, right, the leads are going to be bad, and the sales executives are not going to spend any time on it. The dealerships have a lot of things to do, and the sales consultants by nature are very smart people, right? So what matters is, how does the digital agency actually run the intelligence and the programs behind to get these leads? Are these really serious customers? What is the logic that's going on in generating these leads? Are they properly geotagged? Are they properly distributed to the dealerships pin code wise, right? So if I'm, for example, if a Coimbatore lead lands up in Chennai, or if a Delhi lead lands up in Chandigarh, it's gone. And after 3 calls, the sales consultant is not going to bother anymore. And then we call it lead leakage. In reality, it is not. It's just bad leads. So this is where we need to draw the line. Lead leakage is where it's an operational issue. I got 100 good leads, I followed up only 50, that's 50% leakage. I got 100 shit leads, I followed up 3, I lost my patience because there were 3 bad leads. That's not lead leakage. Just wanted to add my point there. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. I think this reminds me of an example with one of the customers that we worked with. I think very similar issue, right? I think it's always important to validate all these leads that you actually end up getting. And ideally, you would want to validate through an automated process, then end up using your manual resource on them. So something that we do for them is we do metadata validation, where because phone numbers are the unique identifiers, and those are the leads for you, right? And every phone number is actually geotagged by itself. You don't have to depend on the geotag given by the digital agency of sorts, right? So what we did for something like this, for this case, was to validate all the leads. Every time a lead comes in, it's automatically validated. It'll say this is the geotag given by the digital agency, and this is the digital tag. It is actually with their telecom provider. So I think that kind of actually adds to it. Yeah, please go on, Mr. Girish.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Raman. I think I just wanted to add one point to what maybe was saying. Lead generation has become a business.
Yeah, definitely.
It's as simple. I can just go out and buy 5,000 leads. It's just become a pure business now, right? Just like how we sell cars and, we retail leads, buying leads is business. I can go to multiple aggregators which are there all over the town today. So I can just go them per lead 1,000 rupees, per lead 400 rupees. You get exclusivity. So leads are all out there, right? So for me, as I said, as what Devi was saying, how do we get the real good leads? No, nobody talks about that. Everybody talks leads, aa gaya bhai. And you can also understand, we have a job which is done by a human being, which is so monotonous. I can give you 100 leads. He has to make 100 calls. Sir, I'm calling from so-and-so place. Are you interested? Are you interested? Are you interested? And he's want to get a lot of negative feedback. And that sort of job, being a human being, I think I would not be able to handle. So how do I ensure I get the right leads? How do I, as right, Devi said, I have 10 customers. How do I ensure these 5, 6 customers who come to me are the customers who I shouldn't go back off? That is the thought process which needs to be really worked upon, because getting leads is, I'm telling you, if I have, so there is this formula where pre-COVID times wherein, I sell a car for 10 leads. If I get 10 leads, I sell 1 car, right? So if I have a target of 300 cars, 300 to 10. Today get 3,000 leads is nothing. I could just go out there and do some this thing, and I could get 3,000 leads. But what is the quality of these 3,000 leads? That is a question which we really need to work on.
That's true.
Girish, a very valid point. But I'll tell you an example when a personal experience of mine. I had in our team, I had a guy who used to sell almost like 200 cars individual to retail customers. Okay, every month on month. And 200 cars is something which is quite a good number. And even at a recession in 2008, 2009, he used to sell 150 cars, and that is why I said the importance of the frontliners and the quality of the frontliners which gets in is important. So when we have that kind of understanding of the customers, it was primarily the references, how he maintains the current customers, and how he gets the leads, right? So that's a kind of course, the other things are all additional information, but the importance of that final touch points with the customers is really critical, and that makes a lot of difference between whatever brands it is. That's the primary difference which we need to look into, and that's the importance that we need to get from an OEM perspective. The sources of leads, the quality of leads, and all can be many and will keep on improving. Right? It is not just that the source of leads will stop. It has changed over. If you look into the past one decade, the sources has improved a lot, right? But it's finally that end customer touch point that makes a lot of difference in conversions, and that's the importance which we need to really look into. So if one person can do such kind of wonders, it's that how do we keep those guys motivated and continue with that performance is something which we need to really look into, and that human touch is something which is very important irrespective of whatever technology which we talk about.
Definitely, most definitely. I think. Yeah, please go on.
I know we are very short of time, but yeah, on the lead leakage perspective, I would like to give a slightly let's say a different perspective. So I strongly feel 7 to 8 years, or maybe lesser than that, I think dealerships will be a thing of past. We will only have product showrooms just to touch and feel the product. That's it. And if we look at organizations like Amazon, Flipkart, Tesla, etc., it is how they have curved the touch points into a singular window. And that is where they have actually achieved greater success. And that is where I feel, and I completely agree with Girish, the campaigns, etc., are done from a headquarter perspective with the target of course, the customer, but they have the dealership to actually kind of enable that. And that is where the lead leakage is actually happening. And that is where I feel in the future, since we will have probably an omni channel digital interface, people will be getting more answers and more quick answers also from that perspective. And that is where I would see the lot of curve in the lead leakage will happen. That's my perspective of this. Thanks.
No, thank you so much, Vijay. I think we've spoken a lot on lead leakage and lead tracking. We can slowly move to the other side of the spectrum. We can talk about retention, usage, and etc. I think we barely have any time. We can start with Mr. Bijoy itself, since he handles post-sale processes for Skodas. I think you can get started, Bijoy. I think we can get started on what are the challenges that comes when it comes to retention of the customers, right? How is actually data being leveraged to make sure that the customer is actually constantly engaged at all points, and to make sure the customer is actually retained within the company? Like, can you just give us some few insights?
Absolutely. So just a quick correction, Raman. I take care of the innovation and digitalization for my
Sorry, my
organization,
bad.
not the post-sales part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel from a retention perspective, there are a lot of touch points, and I can only give you the perspective from a digital angle only, not unfortunately not from a marketing or sales perspective. From that, we strongly feel there needs to be a push where it comes to the after sales perspective. It is a traditional kind of a thing where we are pushing for the sales, and once it comes to the after sales, we I won't say we forget the end customer, but at least we don't have the enough digital tools in our kitty to kind of enable that. We do have a lot of robust systems which are taking care, but again the touch points between the OEMs and the dealers, and then the dealers to the customer, is not kind of rightly fitting where, compared to what we have in the sales. Now coming to the retention part, we discuss a lot on how immersive and how essential the touch points are, and that is exactly what happens once a car is being sold. It is reduced, I don't know, 50%, 60%, 70%, and in some cases less than 20%. And that is where we really need to understand our customer. We need to cater to his needs, not only from a pre-sales perspective, but from a post-sales perspective. And I think from an OEM perspective, we ourselves are very much responsible to pushing this out to the customers and how they can probably leverage out of it. So we were speaking about sending the customer greeting cards and things like that on their anniversary. We now need to see what next can be done from a customer retention perspective. Why can't I have the same customer coming to me and have more kind of immersive action to it? A lot of OEMs are already working towards it, and I feel that is a big thing which we need to look at the future. Yeah. So that was my perspective. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Mr. Devi, I think you can give us some insights on the same.
Sure. So, so regarding after sales, right? I've been an after sales guy most of my life. So, so first of all, it's not in the customer's interest, right, that they come to the dealership for service. Most of the customers come to dealership for service because the warranty will expire, otherwise the car is going to break down, right? So the ideal situation would be that if cars never needed service, right? It's another thing that 60-70% of our profit comes from after sales. So let's pretend that I never said that. But so service by nature is not a pleasurable experience for a customer, right? So it's natural that the retention always goes down after the warranty period. It's just natural. That's the trend in all markets. Now, how do we ensure that the retention doesn't fall drastically is the only thing that we can do. Now, I'll use Sarabjit's question, right, regarding digital versus tele and all that, to just give an example. This is something that we did in one of my previous assignments, where we ran a pilot of running service reminders, right? The first thing is, the principle was you do two forms of communication. One is a one-way communication where only we are talking to the customer, like a direct mailer or an SMS or a WhatsApp or whatever. And then the two-way communication is a phone call where a human is actually talking. Now, this is where again we see the digital intervention coming in. Right now, the first communication should be the one-way communication, which is so specific and so catered to the customer that they call you back and book the appointment. Now, how do we do that? Again, it's the data. When we ran the pilot, we realized that the customers who were calling back, we asked one further question: how close were we to predicting your mileage of the vehicle? The closer we were to the mileage of the vehicle, the more customers called back. Because that's when we're reaching to the customer at the right time. So if you're going to say, dear Nissan customer, dear Ford customer, doesn't matter, you've lost the customer. You have to say, dear Devi Charan, your Nissan Sunny XL, registration number so and so, running at so many kilometers, is due for service by this time. That's when you have the customer's attention. Until we do something like that and add to it the offers, the field service actions, if any, recalls, if any, some of them may not be able to communicate that on written, but only when we do that does it become specific. Now with the digital age, we need to send the location of the dealership, and now further we have to look at taking the service to the customer, mobile service van, bikes taking the service to the customer, or arranging drivers, pickups and drops. This is where we need to go. But again, the core foundation of all this is data and reaching to the customer at the right time.
That's so true. I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about during my presentation as well. In fact, we have so many DMS softwares, I mean, so many tools to collect data and monitor them and everything. But I think the key is how do we leverage this data, and are these systems actually communicating with each other to use this data to give a highly personalized context to be the agent or for the customer, for that matter, right? So I think that's where the differentiator lies. Mr. Girish, Raghunath, Rajiv, one of you can just.
Yeah, I think it's all about data, right? What has really happened over the last, I'm just taking off the automobile industry to one of the other most happening industries, is the financial, the banking sector today, right? So what has happened today, there is something called as a KYC, right? Everybody needs a KYC for anything and everything. You know your customer is basically become the norm. You know, you go to a bank, the first thing is a KYC. You go to a hotel, the first thing is a KYC. Everywhere you go, KYC is something. But I think what has happened in the automobile industry is we still have not reached that level of getting the right KYC, you know, which is the KYC for us. So for us, once you have the data, then I think how we analyze this data, how we put this data in order, how do we, and you know, I think that is the key. You know, the entire thing has to be an output of a process and a data. So you have a data, you play around with the data, make a process, and so as what Evie was saying, today the situation is we try to get data after we have delivered the car, we have done everything, but you know, we try to get the data at a later stage. You know, probably that should be the first. So today we as a group, we are working on something wherein, you know, it's a little bit away from the service part. We are working on something very important. So even today, what happens if it's a customer who walks into a showroom or a deli who comes into our this thing, you know, and we say like 75-80% of our cars are sold through finances, right? So it takes, even today, it takes a tad of probably 2 days to even get back to a customer to say what sort of loan is eligible for him, you know, what is this thing. Even today, it takes 2 days time, right? That's the norm. You know, how much ever you say a bank will give me a response in 3 hours, you know, ICICI might give you a response in 2 hours, 3 hours, but on a generic thing, even today, 24 hours to 48 hours is what it takes. So I'm saying we are working on a platform where the customer comes in, we just fill in his KYC, maybe a few details here and there. Bang, 30 minutes, he gets an approval letter, right? Which says that you are eligible for this thing, you are eligible. So such kind of things is what will keep, because as David said, it is not, the customer is not very keen to come back to you for a service or come back to you for this thing. He has to do it to keep the health of his car right. He has to do it because he's forced to do it. If he says that you can run the car for 10 years and unlimited kilometers without any service, he's the most happiest to do, right? He's the most happiest to do. It is in the interest of the customer. I need to maintain. If I don't go back to my service center for a regular checkup or a regular this thing, the car is going to break down. And that fear is what always keeps going on in his mind. And probably to remove that fear, I think this data has to play a role so that we reach back to the customer, do something at his doorstep. But I think with electric vehicles coming in, I think that will change a lot. I guess, you really don't need a service center. You probably, you can run your cars all over, because we have this ZS EV right now, so we are very scared to sell those cars. How do I even make some money or a service of it? So that's on the lighter side, but I think things will change. Things will change on that front also.
Most definitely. Rajiv, Raghunath, any points?
No, I think it's said already. On the usage part of the customer journey, from where you get to retain customer eventually. I think Raman, you touched this point in one of your when you were presenting something. So the superior products, they are available with everyone. Every manufacturer has got, they have got to that level, so that's there. And then the next stage came. I think this is how the whole journey has also evolved. Distribution systems and service levels and all those things. So that's where also everybody has got to a point where you can't really put a finger onto somebody and say that, look, you have to improve, and that's everybody's at a threshold level. The third point is what we are discussing, that remains at core to really drive retention is that you've got the people, you've got to have the right mindset also, service mindset, where you can really, Raghu gave an example, so that person had a service mindset. So he was closely connected to the to the customer, and therefore can bring in customers after customers. Retention is there, and then repurchase has to happen to continue to drive this engine, right? This money engine. And then how does that happen now? With so much of information available, we need to have systems available so that we can have a personalized communication to a customer. So we can't be just as you were saying that hello, this is Nissan service, this is Honda service, this is Volvo service, and please come for this. So we need to have some kind of analytics going on so that we can be a little more predictive, we can be more accurate in reaching out to the customer at the right time, right place, with the right in the right situations. So yeah, technology has to play a good role. We are all grappling with various solutions now, situations, and therefore solutions. But retention is going to happen when you combine people and technology together.
Definitely, that's so true.
Very happy to hear it, or happy, or I don't know how it is when Girish said about the EV sales and the the revenue which they are looking into, because for any dealership or any distributor, one of the key things that we need to look into is the after sales revenue to cover their operating cost. Okay, and then only because in a developed market, the percentage of what you get from new car sales is entirely very small compared to the after sales. So the after sales part is really important, and of course, as Girish said, as we move to the EV, and I can definitely say that the automotive industry is actually in the tipping point where you're moving from an ICE engine domination to more of an EV domination, which means you're actually reducing your parts by 70%. Okay, so it's like the kind of revenue which you get we need to be looked into reducing it, but that is where we need to look into expanding the source of things. Like that's where the connected cars, the ecosystem which gets developed from there, and Like how do you understand that customer journey? Like, of course, the importance of your privacy definitely matters, because if you read out today's newspaper or yesterday's newspaper, the main thing which happened is the privacy statement changed in WhatsApp, right? People are moving out of WhatsApp and things like that. And that is exactly what is going to happen in automotive industry in another 5 years, 6 years time. Because you're moving it into an area where the importance of data and how it is being looked into and utilized is something which will become a key importance in the in the revenue stream of both the OEM and also the dealerships. So I mean, it is at the tipping point where we can see a huge change happening in the coming years, especially with EV. For example, what I can say is the revenue can be something where you upsell based on, like, a customer has his anniversary and he wants to ride a sports car, like, and guy aged between 28 to 30 or 35, and maybe his marriage anniversary, he wants to drive. And Tesla gives you an opportunity to convert your electric vehicles with the power of a sports car for a few hours. You pay and then you do it. That's a kind of income which automotive industry might be looking into at a later stage and moving it into. So if you define how do we have that retention and all those things, it is key currently, and of course it is going to be a challenge in the future, especially when Bijoy said about shared mobility and things like that. And that's going to be another important thing, right? Owning it, like if you look into the current mindset of the people, earlier one of the key things was owning a house and then owning a car, right? Now owning a house has got very less importance in the new generation's thinking, because you already you're based on your job things, you constantly move, and there is nothing like an investment asset. So there are a lot of opportunities where the investment in house is getting reduced, right? And that might be the same case with cars, because there are companies where you can actually take a customer car, you fly from say Bangalore to Delhi, you leave your car in Bangalore, and within that particular 2-3 days where you are in Delhi, your cars get utilized by someone else with the same kind of things, where you are able to get to use another person's car in Delhi. So that's the kind of thing, the shared mobility changes that we are looking into in the future, and that's very vast and quite fast, which changes are happening. And that's where we need to be cognizant of as an automotive fraternity.
No, definitely. I think that's the way forward for sure. So I think that brings us up to the next question. I think we can wrap it up with this question. If we can also have our closing thoughts on the same. I think we can all talk about what is the way forward. I think how has the customer expectation risen or has changed since the pandemic, or has it been always changing? How can we actually help, or how are companies actually reacting to this changing customer demands, right? We definitely see a lot of things like we spoke about, like virtual showrooms, your virtual interiors. You can also see how the car fits in your parking lot. Also, like door-to-door service for even test drives and etc. that I actually got a few days back. So companies are doing a lot of things. So what do you think is a way forward to address the changing expectations of the customer? We can just have a quick closing thought from all of you all. One of you can go ahead. You can just unmute yourself and go for it.
Okay, I'll go. So the customer expectations have been, changing over a period of time. What COVID has done is it's kind of, super boosted or supercharged that thing. The acceleration at which, or the rate at which the customer experience has, or customer expectation has changed, has gone into superdrive in the last 6-8 months. Customers have always been slightly going or tilting towards the digital. It should be more specific. All of that is there because the other channels and the digital e-commerce and the digital companies have always been kind of shaping customer expectations, and we are trying to catch up. But what COVID has done is just completely accelerated it. So um, the way forward is we have to do whatever we are doing, but we have to do it much faster. The good thing is shared mobility is going to take a backseat for about say 2-3 years. So that pressure which was there on us because we were losing car sales considering shared mobility, now that pressure is slightly reduced. But that was not a major concern in India. That was a major concern in some of the more developed markets. But that's a silver lining, if you could say. But again, we have to really pull up our socks in terms of accelerating towards the digital transformation. That's my point of view.
Definitely. Anyone else?
I have a point here. I think even product coming up, which is coming in from almost all the manufacturers today, which I know, is changed a whole lot from what it was. I wouldn't put it because of the pandemic or because of COVID. It's a more of earlier when I used when we speak about buying a car, it was about what's the power of your car. Does your car have a power steering? Does your car have power windows, front power windows, or does your car have so? But today it is more of does your car talk back to you? Does your car has there are so many other features which have come. So the product lineup of most of the manufacturers also have changed. It has changed from power, it has changed from car steering or the materialistic features of a car to more, I would say, more digital features. I would say a typical example is what MG has created with the kind of cars which they have put on roads today. It's not about the power, it's not about this thing. It's about cars which has got artificial intelligence, which you can talk to the car and open a sunroof, and which has a lot of the car gets updated on its own over the air, just like your phone gets updated. So the software gets updated. You don't have to go to a service center. The car is parked in your service center. Then you control your car through an app. These are the kind of features and these are the kind of things what people expect today. When you have reached that levels of expectation of a customer, I think the customer expectation in terms of dealership providing, or in terms of I would say an experience. I wouldn't say even an experience. It's more of ecstasy. Sorry for the word. It's out there. It's outrageous. The kind of expectation is outrageous. It's sometimes you feel, yeah, how can you even ask me such kind of things? So those are the kind of expectations which are out there in the market today. So people would come into the showroom and ask you everything they want. They want everything. So, and you need to keep them happy in terms of customer satisfaction. You need to keep them happy in terms of pricing. You need to keep them happy in terms of product. You need to keep them. Earlier it was never that. Earlier, if there was a product, I'm happy with the product. The product has got so and so features, so and so things. I'm quite happy. There's a long time when we only had the Marutis which used to sell. You just, the car was whatever it is. But today, I need to keep them happy in terms of finance. I need to keep them happy in terms of product. I need to keep them happy. Even if a sales consultant doesn't smile at a customer, it becomes an issue. Right, so the expectation of the customer has reached a very different level, and my thought process over here is there are a lot of things which the Indian automobile industry, we talk about connected cars, we talk about so many things. A lot of things where Indian market is yet to evolve is one is subscription-based business, which a lot of them are right now working on. A lot of manufacturers right now working on subscription-based leasing. Many of the companies today work on wet lease and different forms of leasing which is available. These are all designed so that what we were talking earlier about, why do I have to bring a car to the service center? So I take a leasing plan or I take a subscription and everything is taken care of. When I leave the car at the service center, I get another car for me to drive. I get another car with me. At no point I am this thing. So these kind of various models. We talk about technology being coming, but we also need to talk about the various other things that can come along with it. One of the biggest thing which Indian market will probably see in the coming times, according to me, is subscription and leasing. We are not there into subscription. We are not there into leasing in our country as of now. Leasing, there are multiple kinds of leasing. When I was abroad, when we work, I think leasing was the only game plan. Nobody even spoke about anything else. It was only leasing, and leasing. So I think India has to evolve a lot to bring a great amount of customer satisfaction when it comes to the kind of not only the product, the kind of experience you give a customer in terms of his ownership. I don't have to. You come, you don't do anything, pay 10,000 rupees in my dealership, take the car and go, and you keep paying 10,000 rupees. I take care of your service. I take care of all the other things about the car. So these are the kind of things which I think would change the Indian market in the coming days.
Definitely. That definitely makes sense. I mean, yeah, Bijoy.
Yeah, I can go next. Thank you. So I definitely agree with the panelists earlier. So I would like to kind of segment this into 5, let's say, stages or parts. So first 2 stages is, as we just touched upon, the general connectivity. The driver is able to track the basic vehicle usage, monitor technical status, predictive maintenance, AI-based tools to enhance service experience, etc., as we also discussed. Then the individual connectivity, where the driver is using his personal profile to access customized digital services and digital ecosystems and platforms. That's second. Few examples is how I can use my car as a wallet. And right now with FASTag, we can already see that happening to an extent, the tolls using the FASTag system. Then the connectivity will evolve. For example, how car can connect to another car for warning and ADAS related connectivity systems. Then stage 3, how we can do preference based personalization of our automobiles, how we can take care of the personalized controls, how I can make the car my own, not the OEMs, but at least my own, how I can do targeted advertising, contextual advertising, things like that, ordering via car, things like that will be there. Then eventually this will evolve into live interaction with all connected ecosystem, not only car to car, but again the other ecosystems around the car. And I think eventually, lastly, a cognitive based artificial intelligence system which will fulfill all the stakeholders expectations basis their needs and all. So it's not only just an experience of buying and servicing the car, much more than that. I feel we all agree that yes, this mobility aspect will come on, the shared mobility. I personally feel that it is just waiting maybe one more year to kind of come back. And eventually we are looking at omni-channel experience, which is like a one-stop shop for my mobility needs. That's, I think, where we are going to target on the in, let's say, 2030 or something, where I will have one stop where I fill in my mobility needs, whether it is related to car leasing, whether it is related to personalized car requirement, and basis that I will get that delivered to me. So that is where I see the trends coming up. Thanks.
Definitely, Vijay. I think Mr. Rajiv and Raghunath, if you have any points, we can move on to the questions.
Okay, we've shot much above the time, so I'll be very, very brief and quick. So what I understand is my final thoughts would be, I mean, after listening to everyone here, that face-to-face interaction, a typical face-to-face interactions is going down and it will continue. I mean, that's a trend I definitely foresee. Everything on web, I mean, just like Amazon experience, no, that's not happening, at least in our industry in the near future as well. So what lies in between them is, something, our best tool is a telephone. I definitely understand that telephone is the best way we can really do business, but that telephone is not just a telephone. I mean, make that system available on all related systems. Enable it on mobile. Make everything live, as they say. A cloud-based system, centralized system. So all those things are required. Have your best people. I still say have your best people handle the cloud telephony, because this is the first and perhaps the only chance where you can really go forward to process your leads and your business. Yeah, that's me.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Raju. Raghunath, any closing points?
Nothing from us.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I think, yeah, I think from a communication standpoint, I think all of you put it together. I think, like Mr. Rajiv said, all of us might have different DMS softwares, different systems, different CRM systems for different processes. I think the key is how you actually make use of all this data to even communicate to the customer. That's where cloud telephony actually plays a huge role. Like cloud telephony can come in and can act within your system. It doesn't have to be a separate system at all. It can come in, act within your system, pull out data from different sources, and actually communicate the most relevant information for your customer. It can be pre-sales, it can be post-sales, it can be during usage, wherever it might be, right? I think that is where cloud communication can play a key role. I think we can open up for questions. I think we've already shot way past the time. Guys, can we have quick questions? I think a couple of them are already raised after the keynote discussion.
Yeah, we'll have quickly from Mr. Rajkumar. Can you please unmute yourself and put your question quickly?
Yeah, so I have a very specific question, and it is something which I want to know from the panelists, and any of the panelists can take my point and answer me that when we say that 65% of the cars on the road after the manufacturing warranty is over is going to the local workshops, they are not the technology driven workshops. They are the simple roadside workshops, and most of them are like not using any of the technology platform as of now. So is it the digital space or the technology platform what we are discussing is at all relevant when we say 65% of the cars which are going to the unorganized sectors are not at all tuned to the discussion we are having?
I think it depends on what kind of vehicles are going in, are part of that 65%. Okay, it might be because in India that 65% of comes from a big, which is like 2000, pre-2008 or something like that. With the new technology and it gets in, it's very hard for a local workshop to come to give you a complete solution as such in the after sales. And various brands which I feel in India, it is especially like with 5 years to 6 years time, the kind of customer who comes in to the after sales the service center at least once in a year is quite high, especially to look into how their car is. Might be there's small oil change or something like that that might have happened from the local workshop, but for any major service and things like that, I think they still get into the after sales service centers for a better understanding. So it's not immediately after the warranty, because even the auto companies are giving extended warranties and things like that, which moves in over a period of 5 to 6 years, right? So that actually helps in the retention back to the service centers and things like that. So it depends, and with the technology changing in from ICE to EV, that will become more important for the customers to be part of the complete ecosystem.
Does it answer your question, Mr. Rajkumar?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Raman, we had a question from Thana Sankar who had asked, please tell us more about feedback via IVR calling and SMSs. So I think Thana is already here. So if you want to answer that, or any of the speakers?
Yeah, sure. I actually spoke to him offline. Sure.
Okay.
No problem. I mean, like I mentioned, right? Again, it's more about how you actually use the data. Like when it comes to even feedback or feedback collections, I think it becomes very important for you to get. First step is to improve the response itself, right? I think that's where the first step is, because most often than not, the problem is getting responses itself from the customer. Then comes using that response to improve your customer service or whatever it is, right? So I think improving that response rate becomes important. And what are the things that you can actually do to improve that response rate? So that's where actually cloud telephony can come in and work on some interactive responses. Again, it can be voice-based interactive response, it can be SMS-based interactive response, and then chat-based interactive response. How do you use all of these channels in combination is where a cloud telephony player like Exetel can actually add value. So, I mean, we can talk about this offline much more in detail, but in short, this is probably what can be done to improve the response rate itself. So that is what at least we try to do for our customers.
Okay. Okay, I think we have you have answered all the questions. There are no questions from the audiences, I guess. So I think we'll do a closure, Aman.
Sure.
I'll give a closing statement. Yes. So we have all understood like how automobile industry is no longer restricted to just OEMs and dealers. It also encompasses servicing using vehicle selling platforms, rental, self-driven cars, etc. Customer communication and information in the automobile sector is currently scattered between CRM, calling platform, SMS gateways, owing to the large dealership model. And there is one platform that has all the information, and Exetel is that platform for you guys. So on the closing note, I would like to thank our partner Exetel and all our thought leaders for taking out your precious time and being here. Not missing our lovely audiences. Thank you for being here and making this session very interesting and interactive with your speakers. I hope all your queries were answered, and we will be shortly sharing, the video with everyone so that you can have a recap of the insights that have been shared by our thought leaders. And please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter for more webinar updates on various topics. So thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Stay safe and Happy New Year 2021.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think, Raman, all have gone. It's just my team remaining.
Oh.
Wasim is here. Wasim, yeah.
Okay, super. Were we able to get